Hey, this is David Wolinsky back with another interview from the audio archives of NoDon'tDie.com. This time I'm bringing to you the second half of my conversation with Greg Zeschuk, who is the co-founder of BioWare. We spoke on January 30th, 2015. If you'd like to read a full transcript of this conversation, you can check the link in the description below. And also below, you'll see a link to my Patreon where your support helps me continue with this project. Thanks.
It's great when it's obviously fabulous when it's super successful. That's even better. But just seeing your game on the shelf in a store, the first few years, and because again, back to there's only stores, there's no downloadables. You'd go to the local store and you'd see your game there, and it'd be like, wow, we actually made that. And because it seems so magical and so unusual. And I think some of that magic's gone now because you can kind of get a game out in a weekend on iTunes if you want. But it's just different when you have this really. There's a kind of almost like a mythology or magic to them that's making them a little different now. Not this any better. It's just different. The releasing of them is very different.
It's different, but certainly what it is sort of being eroded or is being evolved out is the serendipity, I think, in a certain sense, and also the ritualistic act of leaving your house, going to a physical space, and you're like, oh wow, this thing, I heard about this thing, and you can touch it, and it can have other senses attached to it, as opposed to like, well, I scrolled down a lot and I found this thing, and I don't know, the couple of sentences on it look kind of neat. Screenshots are okay.
And then your download, then your sampling is free and it's quick and you're done. That's nothing. But I mean, I go so far as to say that whole kind of app store concept and the zero price gaming is it. And it's funny. I'm not one of the guys that's anti free to play. I'm totally cool with free to play. But I think that the app store has devalued the value of games because I think when you're getting into free, I mean everything's free all of a sudden. That's the only thing that works now. You're sort of like historically, it's like, hey, if I made furniture and you could take the chair to my shop and use it for a while before you need to buy it, right? And again, like I said, I actually have nothing against free to play games. I like that concept, but I don't like the fact that that's kind of becoming almost the de facto standard for everything that's not AAA. And the problem with it is that it's sort of like, I think some of the cleverness of indie gaming and some of the amazing stuff some of these folks make, I would love to see it better financially supported so they can make more. Simple as that. It makes it really hard. Because the winners and losers separation is so great. It's just it makes. I think it sort of in some ways devalues the actual value of games.
I would agree, and the perception of
And
I think that my feeling based on just watching the indie space for the last decade. I think there are some indies who are honestly too scared or don't feel like it's a good idea to make the games they really want to make because they'll be much harder to be discovered.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sort of just bums me out. But
I love the creative craziness of those games. I mean, they're wonderful, and it's like, but the reality is and it's like any other, I guess, the art form or entertainment form. Like you got to differentiate, but it's really hard to. I think it's hard to get paid for your efforts these days, which is unfortunate. I'd love to see more money flow to the development side. Guys who make. I
mean, I think it's anyone who wants to create in general these days. It's
everything. Like it's music. We could be musicians talking about this even worse. You know what I mean? Like it's even worse for them. At least they get concerts, but that's getting squeezed too.
No, I mean, like my point of entry was. Into games is different. Like I got my degree in music business, and I started at Rolling Stone. I was at, I only just got into games because I wanted to also write about them, and I got sucked deeper in. So I see stuff through a different lens as well. So I feel like we may have touched on it, but I still want to ask you, we touched on what is the audience for games, not really understand about the way bigger games are made. What do you feel like the games media doesn't understand about the way bigger games are made?
Probably the same thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think I would sort of call out that games media is just such an insanely broad category now. It's not at one point it was sort of like, you know, professional journalists that worked at paper magazines, and, you know, and newspapers and stuff. And now it's anyone, you know. So games media is potentially the same as the fans. You have more professional media and maybe a more sort of official sites and all that, but hey, you know, someone could start up a YouTube channel and talk about games and do really well. And you know, some people do that really well and some people don't. And it's the concept of games media. That's one thing. It's just the concept of media in general. It's just changed immeasurably.
Mm-hmm. It's been very funny to, I don't know, funny is the right word. I've noticed at you know, E3 and GDC over the years, just you see other people's, you know, their badges and laminates, and just the number of people who just, you know, their titles are just streamers, or they have like a YouTube link as opposed to like, oh, I don't know, like tech writer for The Guardian or something like that. It's been an interesting shift, I think, also, you know, tying out this 24-hour cycle. Yep. So something I know you wanted to talk about is that you have a teenager now.
Yeah.
I feel like this is sort of the question to ask based on what you said. What do you think as an adult that we're sort of losing sight of in terms of how games are affecting teenagers? Let
me see, as an adult, it's funny. Like, I actually have a funny perspective on gaming. In that it's that classic. Well, I gamed a lot as a teenager, so I turned out great. I think the thing is, it's probably the opportunity. It's the gaming has become 24/7 as well, because it's like, okay, if you're not playing, you're watching the stream or you're watching a YouTube video telling you how to play. It's so all encompassing. It's a very, as a, you know, again, as a parent, it's an interesting balancing act to try and figure out how to moderate that. And it's interesting. Like, and then seeing what the kids play, like it has become, I think we touched on earlier, a lot more of the head-to-head competitive, cooperative. That's what they tend to like to play. Like, I think it's also very social. Like, the other thing that's really interesting is just how social it's become. In fact, it's become, like, it's really hilarious when, you know, everyone goes back home from school or whatever, and then they all just get on Skype together and play, you know, like, or, you know, some whatever voice over IP thing they're doing. But it's just really, really funny sort of how much, like, gaming is the center of not every kid, you know, I think you still have that whole kind of range, but a lot of the kids, gaming is their main touchstone for entertainment. And then streams and everything else, you know, the rise of the Minecraft streams. I watched way too many Minecraft streams in my day. It's quite hilarious. I found some of them pretty funny too. Like, I mean, to be fair, I've had the odd chuckle at some of the stuff I've seen.
Well, I don't know, because I don't have a teenager. Like, what other insights can you share as someone who, because you've had an interesting trajectory then on, you know, entering games and then making some of the biggest ones and then watching someone else's gaming, you know, habits take shape.
No, and I think that, well, the funny thing is the one that, and it's the reason I got back in. Well, the one thing I find is that just that concept of skill improvement as they get a little bit older. It just their skill curve kind of shoots through the roof. You know, like, that's one thing that's really, really funny. Is like when the kids are little, you play against them in a, you know, whether it's FPS or whatever, you're like, I'll just, like, be easy on them. And now you get destroyed. It's like, I guess there is a truth to the. Like, I think actually just how comfortable, like, it's like any bunch of kids can come over and they'll jump on, anyone can grab the joystick and do really well on, like, you know, Call of Duty together. Like, it's kind of like, it's become almost this common language among them. And I think it's almost like, I think if you don't game with most of the kids, like, you sort of feel left out, because it's almost like back when we were young. I remember, like, okay, if you didn't get cable, you couldn't see all these cool TV shows, right? And you're like, please get cable so I can watch Happy Days. So here in Canada, it wasn't on the Canadian channel, right? You're like, I want to watch Happy Days, and you're missing out if you don't have, you know, you kind of like have this hole in your culture repertoire, and I think gaming is a large part of that now. And not for everyone. Like, there's still a lot of the sports kids and everything else, but a lot of the average kids, it's a huge part of what they do.
I mean, I feel like we've heard this before, though, that kids play too many video games and don't read enough.
Sort of. That's probably true. I mean, it's funny. Like, I think, well, man, that's why, I mean, the written word sort of being replaced by a stream of video, like to some degree.
I've also heard of this happening as well.
Yeah, it's just like, it's funny though, because I still can't stand video because I find it too slow. Like I can read much faster than I can watch a video, so I prefer to. I still like this. I'm kind of almost like some kind of reverse Luddite, where it's like I prefer the written stories because the video ones don't. I mean, they take too much of my time, and so. But at the same time, if someone doesn't want to put the effort in, there's more than ample opportunity to watch videos on everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm. So you had mentioned too that you've cut back on playing games as well, which doesn't surprise me because you've seen how the sausage is made. But
yeah,
I'm not even sure what exactly to ask you. Like I sent you a couple of those questions. I don't know if any of those hopped out at you.
It's interesting. Like I think it's sort of I could probably sort of tell the story of it, and that would maybe capture a bunch of them. Specifically. For me, like when I was burnt out, I didn't really realize I was burnt out, but I knew I just didn't want to touch another game. And I didn't have a good insight into that, right? And so I'm like, I'll just not touch anything. So probably for an entire year, I didn't play anything. I, read and did other stuff. And, eventually got back into some things. And I think for me, what's happened is for me to get back in, it's either, again, playing with the family, or it's really, really, really specific experiences that I've enjoyed historically. So, I'm a huge Demon Souls, Dark Souls. So Dark Souls 2 was, I think, the first game I played, since I finished. And so that was almost a year and a half. But I played that, finished it, did the whole thing solo, killed every boss solo. I'm like, okay, I'm back. But after that, I'm like, okay, well, what's next? Well, I'll wait for the next Dark Souls, or they're doing some kind of, the original guys doing some other spin-off, and I didn't have anything that really, floated my boat, So, and I think that's actually one of the interesting challenges for a very experienced gamer is the challenge of getting you out of your seat if you're not playing is getting harder and harder because you've experienced so many things and you've done so much. Maybe VR will change that. Maybe that's going to be kind of that new thing that kind of gets me going again. But like I said, I've been playing Dragon Age Inquisition. It's the first BioWare game I think I've ever played that I don't know the entire story. Like I think I was kind of leaving there by the time that was kind of just getting formed. So I don't know the story, which is amazing. It's been fabulous, and so I've really enjoyed it. And then of course, it's true to the sort of way we made games and sort of way we like to make them, and so therefore I like what was made. But after it's done, like as we talk, I'm kind of like this weekend going to probably finish it after about 110 hours. I've been drawing it out. I didn't want to finish it too fast.
I figured.
Yeah, I really took my time, and then, but then I'm like, well, I'm not sure I'm going to play after. I don't really know. And then, as I mentioned, also I got into League of Legends. It's really funny. Like League's really funny because I remember playing it right when it came out, and I just totally didn't understand it. I played it like a couple matches. And I'm like, why do my levels go away after every match? I don't understand. Why am I buying equipment? Like I really was really clueless. I had no idea what to do. And this was like years ago. This was right when it came out. And then, watching the kids play, I'm like, I'll give this a try. And sometimes play with them, and if they deem me good enough. And I started playing quite a bit, to the point where I got a sore elbow. So this is the other thing about gaming, is that when you get old, like I got like mouse elbow from playing too much League of Legends. So I'm kind of on a league break this week because my elbow is sore. It's kind of like tennis elbow. It's mouse elbow. So.
No, I believe it. My dad, I turned my dad on to Snood.
Oh, okay.
And he got Snood elbow.
Yeah.
Same thing. So, I believe it.
Yeah, and so and we joked, I think, at the outset, like I see League. I think doing things like League is a way of fast decision making, keeping your brain kind of nimble, all that kind of stuff. I just love it. I think they did such a great job. And again, it's free to play, and I love playing it. I spend money on it from time to time when I feel like it. I don't think it's devaluing the experience by any stretch. I think it's a fabulous game. It's a different paradigm, right? And then the competitive part of it's pretty cool. Like, again, with a lot of players, the competitive piece is really important. I played more. My speed was probably World of Tanks, than I slow plotting, but I wanted to challenge myself, so I played a lot of League lately. But then the thing is, okay, I'm on my League elbow break. maybe I'm not going to come back to it. Maybe it'll be 6 months before I try something else, because there's nothing that like calls out to me today to go, I just gotta do this, you know. And I think that's the challenge of gaming, is like, it's like so much of what's created is kind of what's been out there before. And, you know, like I've helped a few friends' companies in the mobile space and looked at what's being made there, and it's like, okay, how many different Clash of Clans clones can you make in 1 year? You know, none will succeed. It's really, really, really tough market, but it's something new has to happen. Again, maybe VR is going to be it, but something to get me out of my easy or what's it called? Easy chair? Easy chair.
Or easy chair.
Yeah,
Maybe you have one of each.
Boy to like get my take the ice off my elbow and play it. It's going to be interesting.
Well, so you mentioned VR, but I'm curious, like, how would you like to see, you know, bigger AAA games progress creatively? Because I don't think it's a given yet that you know, that's where games are going to go.
Yeah, man, I don't know, because they're getting so ridiculous in a good way. You know, they're so ridiculously fulfilling and complete, and like you can live in them, and there's characters to hang out with, and there's realized worlds. Like, it's just it's like, wow, okay, this is amazing. So, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't even imagine where it would go. Like, they're already huge. Like, I mean, again, you look at GTA 5 and, you know, Dragon Age Inquisition. These are just so big and so much stuff to do and so much time. It just, I don't know. That's why, you know, in some ways, like, if I am playing, I kind of like this. If you look this again, you go back to something like League of Legends. It's like it's the absolute opposite. It's like finite, specific, repetitive, but boy, you know, the variety it's that challenge is so much fun. So I don't know. I got no clue. Like, not at all. Maybe that's what I know. It's like I'm out of ideas.
So do you agree? I mean, do you agree with that assertion? I mean, you mentioned like what's out there is pretty much what's already been out there. I guess since you said that, I mean, like, I'm curious, like what does that matter? Like, does it really hurt anyone, or does it really help?
No, it doesn't. It's kind of like, you know, it's like, it's not bad. It's not bad, you know. Like, I think, I'm not saying in a negative way at all. It's like, for me, like, I can't wait for the next Demon Souls, Dark Souls, like, derivative. I can't wait for the next Mass Effect thing. I'm waiting to see what Ken Levine does next. There's some really, 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 really specific stuff that's going to get me out of my chair. And maybe the amazing game, like, you know, Naughty Dog's next thing that blows everyone's mind. Like there's gonna be stuff out there, but it's good. I think the challenge of a sort of like this sort of like casual AAA gamer like me is because I think the other side of the coin, like, I mean, to be honest, it's like simply the time commitment. I mean, the amount of time, like, it's like, okay, put your life on. Like, I seriously, when I'm playing like Dragon Age or Dark Souls, or it was 2, right? Dark Souls 2, I think. Like, I mean, my productivity went through the floor. Like, it's just really bad. Like, I'm not answering emails. I'm kind of like, I have important meetings, and going on the high note and playing them, and you know, and you know, it's almost like that kind of funny thing is I'm getting too old to be so dominated by the passion for a game, but I still will be. I mean, with the right game, I absolutely will be. But I have a better, more balanced view of the time trade-off. You know, when I was working in games, it's of course I've played an enormous amount, like all the time, everything, as much as I could. But you know, now that that's not my job, it's like, I'll just pick and choose and pretty selective.
So I think it's pretty obvious. This will be the last question, unless there's something else you'd also like to talk about. But it seems pretty obvious then, like, why you chose to play, you know, Inquisition. But what is that like?
It's been fabulous. Like, it's really interesting because it's really, really, really familiar. In that, like, I know why it is the way it is, and you know, I knew it's funny. I hadn't like I said, I haven't thought about Dragon Age in ages, and then so we get back into it, and all of a sudden the mythology comes back. Oh yeah, I remember all this, and they do such a great job of presenting the world to the player. It's been really rewarding. Like, I've been loving it, and I think it's really funny too. The other thing that this one friend of mine, it's really funny because, like, years ago, like when this one guy named Deslock, he was a sort of PC journalist, a good buddy of mine from Toronto, and we'd hang out when I'd visit Toronto and stuff. And he's like, and I actually always had a passion for open world gaming, so I really like the Bethesda stuff. I mean, I'll play the Gothic games and Skyrim and Fallout and all that, the later Fallouts and the earlier ones, but all these open world gaming concepts. Yet BioWare never really made an open world game, and so. To that point. So he said, well, why don't you do an open world game? Like, it's what you love to play. I go, yeah, but that's not our expertise. So, and we kind of like had decided to focus more on story than kind of that simulation style playing, right? And then, lo and behold, I'm gone. First thing they do is basically make an open world game. so I'm like, hey, score. And so for me, it's just super satisfying because like I love the expansiveness and exploring the map. I mean, the areas are so gigantic, and I think the thing that I was really blown away by was just the continuing refinement of the characters and the quality of the acting. And there's the scene where you're talking to Dorian and he's like literally tearing up, and you're like, he is tearing up. You can actually see that the artist somehow managed to make it look like he's tearing up, and you're like, unbelievable. Like this is like that's the point for me at which like it sort of transcends the. Like these are just little pixely characters. It kind of shows it's a glimpse of the future in a way, in my mind. Whether could movies be done like this? Would be doing 3D VR movies within is that what the future holds? I think it's just I've been excited, and I think I have this like kind of honestly mixed feeling about finishing it. Like I'm kind of like I don't want to finish it, but it's time. I want to, and I kind of want to get like just check the box, but also see what happens. Because I don't actually know, and that's the best feeling of all. It's like I don't know what's going to happen, and that's super super exciting for a BioWare game, first time ever. So,
well, I think if you have a strong opinion one way or the other, I think they'll take it into consideration.
I do actually. I do. It's actually funny. I'll tell a little story maybe to punctuate that. Obviously I know the guys working on it really well, worked with them for decades, and I was like getting groceries, and I see like the project director, the guy who runs the project, like parked just down the way from me. I'm leaving, he's coming in, so he gets out of his car, and then I start peppering him with comments about Dragon Age, and he's like, "What the heck's going on?" Like in the store, in like the shop, in the grocery store parking lot. And so it's really really funny. It's just really funny, and I had a good time laughter. So sorry, I just like the game so much. I want to tell you this, all positive stuff. And he's just like, "Well, thanks, but wow, I wasn't expecting that. I got my grocery list here. I got to get some milk. It's just it's a funny role reversal, which was actually kind of hilarious.